Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I recap all of the news from the past week, including the Hurricanes' hot streak and the Bruins and Rangers' cold streaks. We'll get you up to date with all the signings of college and junior players turning pro. Playoff races are in full swing, and the teams that still have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs is continuing to decline. We'll discuss where every team stands. We also discuss the other headlines of the week and a busy week of action around the hockey world. We'll have all the details, plus some college hockey playoff talk, the KHL Playoff Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 1, Episode 32, recorded on Thursday, March 23rd, 2017. Are the Bruins tanking again?
Shut up and sit down.
Dolbeck this way, Lee Stempniak, they step in. He looks for Jordan Stahl. Stahl along the boards away from Cody McLeod. Stahl protecting that puck, grinding it back. Slavin looking for a lane, it's tipped right on, Saros! They can't get it, the rebound! Jeff Skinner finishes off the second opportunity, 5:25 left in the second period, 3-1 Carolina.
Stafford chops it past Brody. Bolesky and Spooner race up ice. Bolesky's shot over the top as Johnson came off his line. Engelland feeds Brody. McQuaid pokes it away. That's twice in a row that Brody's run into trouble. 2-0. Spooner with Bolesky. He scores! Ryan Spooner feeds Matt Bolesky. And for Bolesky, it is his first goal in 22 games. His first since returning from the knee injury. The Bruins are up 2 in the third.
We could see it up here that it was a 2-on-0 just waiting to happen.
Paula turns, his pass blocked. Nice play by Mark Stahl. Pass by Brodin, intercepted by Vesey. He shoots, saved by Dubnik.
That hurt him.
Oh, Vesey with
That
a
hurt
lot.
him.
He had a lot on that
That
shot.
hit him on the left shoulder, and he's still hurting.
McDonough with a keep in. Plays it across. Long shot, save, Dubnik, rebound, score! Jimmy Vesey makes it 3-1 Rangers.
Welcome to the Hockey Nuts, episode 32. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Going great, Wayne. Once again, good to be with you. Good evening to you.
Well, yeah, it's been a busy week for us personally, for sure. And I'm actually kind of grumpy tonight. So, and you'll find out why in a little bit when we start talking about my Bruins. So, not happy with the turn of events going on in around the league. But first, let me just list off some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight before we get going too far. First of all, we're going to be talking about the playoff races, of course. And the Western Conference is becoming more and more clear. The Eastern Conference is becoming more and more cloudy as we get close to the end of the season. Of course, the Bruins are making things interesting. If you're not a Bruins fan, I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. Or scary if you're a Bruins fan. So, and then also teams are continuing to sign players out of college in the junior ranks, and we'll get you caught up on all those transactions. And the NCAA Tournament field has been set, and the tournament gets underway tomorrow night. So we'll have all the details and previews on that one.
Very excited about that, by the way, Wayne.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk that Henrik Lundqvist and Steven Stamkos are both close to returning to the lineup. So we'll get into more details on that. And then finally, it's almost our turn to have the NHL Centennial Fan Arena in our town. And both Steve and I are going, so we'll let you know what our plans are for that. But before we get going on all of that, I want to take a little bit of a moment to talk about something that's happened here locally. I know you occasionally hear of folks that have accidents and either become permanently injured or passing away while playing the game of hockey. Well, It happened this week, and it happened here locally. A gentleman by the name of Michael Twist was playing hockey at the Twin Rinks at Wake Forest, North Carolina, and apparently slipped and fell while he was playing, hit the boards, and I guess according to a GoFundMe page that they've set up for him, that he passed away from the injury sustained while playing. And, of course, I included a link to the GoFundMe page, and I'll go ahead and read the excerpt from that GoFundMe page that has a little bit more about the story. And it says, on March 20th, 2017, in Wake Forest, North Carolina, Michael Twist passed away from injuries sustained while playing hockey. While we know that Michael loved playing hockey, especially with his three sons, Kyle, Ryan, and Tyler, it's nearly impossible to make sense of why or how something like this could happen. Michael was a beloved husband and father, and for those of us who played with him, hell of a teammate. While most of us know him because of hockey, his influence stretches beyond just that community. He was always outspoken and fiercely competitive, and most of us will choose to remember him as a fighter, leader, and a friend. All of our thoughts and prayers are with his family now. There's little that can be done to ease the pain of those whom he loved that loved him. As a community of acquaintances, associates, teammates, friends, and family, we'd like you to consider helping however you can. Any money raised here will be given to his family for their needs in the coming days, weeks, and months. We hope you'll all use this fund as an outlet to express your sympathies and share your condolences. There will be expenses associated with this sad event, and as our show of support, we hope to ease that burden for his family. And as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, the GoFundMe page has raised a total of $16,115 for his family so far. So instead of doing our regular Amazon spiel this week, we're encouraging all the listeners of this show, particularly if you're, if you play beer league, you know it's a tight community, and I know a lot of people around here have rallied around this. And, we ask for your donation to this GoFundMe page to help this gentleman's family. So I didn't know him personally. I don't believe I've ever played with or against him, but I have well, of course, he and I, because he only plays, Wake Forest is only 20 some odd miles from here. There are people that play at both the facility I play at and at that one. So, of course, there are common opponents and teammates there. So real sad story locally here. We ask that if you can support this GoFundMe, we would go ahead and do so. The link for it, of course, is in our show notes. And then on another personal note, something that's a little bit more happy, I want to thank Mark Allred of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast for giving me a birthday shout-out. I listened to his podcast this past week, and he started off his show giving me the shout-out for a happy birthday. Apparently, they recorded on my birthday, so he gave me that shout-out. So, Mark, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
That's great.
All right, so let's move on. Speaking of which, since we're talking about black and gold, let's talk about the Bruins. I've got a little bit to rant about this week, about the week. First of all, they've had a busy week. They finished up that Western Canada run with a 5-2 win at Calgary and a 7-4 loss at Edmonton. And then on the way back, they came and lost 4-2 to Toronto, and then they lost 3-2 to Ottawa. Now, the Edmonton game, I watched that game, and it was just one of those where it seemed like the jet lag caught up with them, and they just, before you knew it, they were down 3-0 early in the first period. And it was just one of those games that you just, they happen. You throw it away, you move on to the next game. You just, every once in a while, you have one of those games.
Right.
But the Toronto game and the Ottawa game left me convinced that the NHL either A, has it out for Boston or so bad wants Toronto and Ottawa in the playoffs that they're willing to do anything to make it happen. I'm calling a conspiracy theory. That's right. On this, because I've got a list of notes right in front of me of all of the plays in those two games that the Bruins got hosed by either no calls, bad calls, and it essentially cost them the game because, in my opinion, Boston outplayed Toronto and they outplayed Ottawa in those two games, but they came out with nothing in the end. In the Toronto game, I mean, it started in the first period. There was one play early in the first that Pasternak was coming out from behind the net, got cross-checked in the face by a Toronto defenseman, no call. Shortly after that, Bergeron got boarded by Shoshnikov, and they ended up getting matching minors out of that deal when it was clear that, Bergeron came out of the corner and went after Shoshnikov because it was a cheap shot, it was a horrible hit, and he came out essentially fighting at the end of that. But they only took him for matching. If nothing, they should have taken Bergeron for the 2. And then Shoshnikov for the boarding and an additional 2, because I think Boston deserved a power play on that play. And then 26 seconds left in the first period, they blew the whistle because one of the Toronto players broke his skate and couldn't get back to the bench. So they blew the whistle. Boston had the puck deep in the Toronto zone. One of their players was caught outside the zone with a broken skate, and they blew the whistle. Their excuse was, we thought he was hurt. No, he was down because he had a broken skate. You don't stop the game for a broken skate. I'm sorry. They never have before. Well, they did that night. And then in the third period, second period was kind of mild, but third period, Zaitsev mugged Bergeron in front of the net, no call, at about the 12-minute mark. At the 7:37 mark on the clock, Matt Martin drew Chara into a matching penalty, and if nothing else, I felt there should have been an additional 2 for that, or just take Martin alone. And then late in the game, and this really is what cost the Boston the game in that game, it was 1-1. Dominic Moore going down the slot, went shoulder to shoulder with Shoshnikov, like they were battling for a spot in front of the net. Bump shoulders. Shoshnikov goes down like he got shot, and they call the interference penalty on Dominic Moore for that. And Toronto scored on the ensuing power play. And then they got 2 more empty netters after that. Now, in the Ottawa game, in the first period, McQuaid was trying to catch an Ottawa player who was trying to get away on a breakaway, dove to swipe the puck off his stick, got puck, and then in that process, the Ottawa player dives like he got shot, and they sent McQuaid for a trip on that play. But no diving penalty on that one. And in the NHL rules, the way it is in the NHL rule book is if you dive to knock the puck off a guy's stick and you get the puck first, if the guy goes down after that, so it's a clean play. Mm-hmm. And he clearly got puck before he took the guy down, but they called him for tripping anyway. Now, in USA hockey rules, in the amateur rule book, if you dive and knock the puck and take the guy out, it's a tripping call. But in the NHL, if you get puck first, there's not supposed to be a penalty there, but they gave him one anyway. And then in the second period, Vetrano was going in to take a shot. Puck was loose. They got a quick whistle, like it shouldn't have been whistled down because the puck was still loose. Boston knocks it in the net after the whistle. And in the process, Vetrano gets mugged by Ceci, but they took them both for roughing. And then at the end of that second period, Phaneuf was just up to his old antics and just, being,
Dion Phaneuf.
Being Dion Phaneuf, basically. They did end up giving him a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, which he totally deserves. So, and then in the third period, with the game tied, Dominic Moore goes to poke check, or not, it wasn't a poke check. He went stick checked a player on the Ottawa team to try to get the puck off his stick, and the Ottawa player lets go of his sticks as he's whacking the stick. It wasn't that hard of a whack, but he knocked the stick out of his hands, called him for slashing, and then Ottawa ends up scoring. They didn't score on the power play. It was technically an even strength goal, but it happened right after the power play ended. So as far as I'm concerned,
it sounds so similar to the Rangers game.
Yeah, and then after Ottawa went up, they just went into their trademark defensive shell, and Boston couldn't do anything with that. At the end, they did everything to try to tie the game. But if you've watched Ottawa play, they play that trap style of game. They clogged the front. They put all 5. I was pointing it out to my son. We were watching the game, and all the whole third period, once they got the lead, if the puck got anywhere near the Ottawa net, all 5 players just in a big crowd right in front of that goal, and it just made it practically impossible to get any pucks through. So that's the way Ottawa plays. So very disappointing week for Boston, to say the least.
Yeah.
So, and Rangers had some tough time in a similar game against the Islanders last night.
We talked about it, and I didn't write down stats. I don't have them. The Islanders got a number of shots on goal, and it's probably similar. But I sat there and watched the whole game with my wife, and she finally told me to shut up. I was so upset. But she agreed with me. I was really venting during the game, but I mean, Wayne, okay, you know you're a hockey fan, a fierce hockey fan, just like myself for your team. Okay? And we both know that if you're an honest hockey fan, there are times where your team, the Bruins, or my team, the Rangers, wins a game and they shouldn't have. It happens. It's a part of hockey. Your team will win a game, and they were very fortunate. They got the luck of the draw. They should not have won the game, and they did, and it turns out they did. Well, the reverse happened last night to the Rangers. The Islanders, I'm sure there's some Islanders fans that listen to this show, okay? If you were happy and proud and thought your team, the Islanders, deserved to win that game last night, I don't believe you're an honest fan. Because there's no way that I watched that game. The goal that was scored to tie the game at 2, which deflected off 2 players' skates. I forget who it was. May have been Casey Cizikas, but an Islander player shot the puck from 10 feet inside of the blue line to the left of the goal of Antti Ranta. The puck hit off of Islander player 1 who was in front of the net, and then bounce off the skate of Islander player 2 to the right of him, and then deflected into the goal. There was no luck. There was absolutely no skill in scoring that goal whatsoever. It was complete luck, 100% luck. The guy who shot the puck couldn't have done it again with 100 pucks. He couldn't have scored that goal with 100 shots.
Wow.
Okay? So you have that happen. Then you have sticks being broken and no slashing called. Happened twice in the game last night. Rick Nash had one. I believe it was Jimmy Vesey had the other.
Well, if the Bruins would have slashed your guy, they would have gotten penalties for it. So
yeah, and right. And then we come down, Wayne, in every single period, we were in front of the net. Now I will give Thomas Greiss credit for playing very well in the first period. He kept the score 0-0. He was the player of the game. He played very well. He stood on his head and made some great saves. But I don't think he was in the second and third periods. And every period, I might be wrong, but we definitely outshot them in the first period, and it could be that way for the game.
36-28 was the shots on goal in that game.
Yeah, we outshot them. So and they did have points where they were able to generate some periods of time where they might get 2 or 3 shots on goal, especially on some power plays that they had. But the bottom line of the whole thing is we would have periods where we would get 2 and 3 good shots on a shift, 8 or 9 scoring chances in each period, and the puck would go off the crossbar or bank off of a lot of skates last night. A lot of skates and banking off of the ice and then hitting off a player's knee or hitting on just weird stuff if you watch that game. And none of the goals would, of course, no goals. We got 0 goals, no benefit like the Islanders did, who they just waltz down the ice and score a goal like that. We sit there and set up net and set up a shooting gallery in front of Thomas Greiss, can't get a goal. It happens that way. That happens in the game of hockey. You better get ready for that to happen. It happens.
Yep. But
that was the frustrating thing for me. I watched that score go from 2-1 to 3-2, and I looked at my wife. I said, I'm so mad right now. This is a game we can't afford to lose. And I thought we completely outplayed them. And I don't normally say that kind of stuff, but I feel the same way you do. I watched my team play a great game and lose.
Yep.
Not good.
And it was the same thing with Boston. Boston outshot Toronto and Ottawa in both those games by a significant margin and came out with nothing. So,
yeah.
So on the good side, they're all, saying this. All the Boston fans are all doom and gloom right now because they tanked at the end of each of the last 2 seasons, and right now they're expecting the same thing to happen again this year. But the Bruins, the people in with the team are saying, look, these are 2 games. They happen. We're still feel like we're playing well. So good thing is they go into Tampa Bay tonight. And both teams are on a 3-game losing streak, so something's got to give. So
yeah, I don't know how it was with but last night's game was the NHL Wednesday night rivalry game. So in between periods, they go back to New York to the studios. Liam McHugh and Keith Jones and Mike Milbury are there, and you should have heard them. Well, the Islanders are just—I mean, they can't. They shouldn't have any trouble trying to figure out why they're losing this game. Terrible play, and they went on about they really bashed the Islanders, who turned out and won the game.
So the Islanders stole one last night.
And that's the only way to say it.
Doesn't help Boston because now, if you take a look, before we move on and take a look at the standings, there's one more team that we follow this week that is quietly becoming a very dangerous team in the East. And that's our local Carolina Hurricanes. Through, what they have, 4 games last week. They got a 3-1 win against Minnesota. That was at home. Real big win there. A 4-2 win against Nashville. A 4-3 shootout loss at Philadelphia. And then a 4-3 win at Florida. So 3 wins and a shootout loss for Carolina on the week. And against some really good teams.
Yep.
And they are quietly making a run here. Nobody's noticing, but they're climbing the standings, and they're now sitting just a few points out of a playoff spot. And right now, they're the hottest team amongst all the teams in the East that are on the outside looking in. So, let's take a look at the standings now with that. Like in the Metropolitan Division, the top 3 still remain Washington, Pittsburgh, Columbus. Washington with 102, Pittsburgh with 101, and Columbus with 100. All 3 have now clinched a spot in the playoffs, by the way. That has happened since the last time we recorded. And then in the Atlantic Division, your top 3 are Montreal still with 91, Ottawa with 88, and now Toronto is sitting in that 3 spot with 83. And the 2 wild cards right now are the Rangers and the Bruins. Rangers with 94 points, Boston with 82. And on the outside looking in, you've got the Islanders at 80. Tampa with 77, Carolina with 75, Philadelphia with 74, Florida with 73, Buffalo with 72, Detroit 69, New Jersey 66. Now, this is how close it's become. Boston is only 2 points up on the Islanders, but the Islanders have a game in hand on Boston. Now, Boston, I believe, owns the tiebreak between the 2 teams. So if they were to finish with the same amount of points, Boston would make the playoffs using the tiebreak. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. And then, of course, Tampa Bay has kind of slid back a little bit. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. But Carolina, sitting in that 5 spot in the wild card standings, they're now sitting. They're 7 points back from Boston, and they're 6-1-3 in their last 10 games. So they've become quite hot lately. But the other thing I noticed about the standings, though, if you look at and I've been talking about it all year, the goal differential is a stat that I keep an eye on, and it is amazing at the way it looks right now. So you've got Washington at plus 71, Pittsburgh at plus 53, Columbus at plus 61, Montreal plus 18, Ottawa plus 4, Toronto plus 9, Rangers plus 40, Boston plus 14, all sitting on the right side of the playoff line. On the wrong side of the playoff line, you've got the Islanders minus 7, Tampa minus 5, Carolina minus 20, Philly minus 28, Florida minus 25, Buffalo minus 31, Detroit minus 33, and New Jersey minus 44. So all the teams on the outside are below zero, and all the teams on the sitting in playoff spots right now are above 0. And the same thing is in the West. It's amazing to look at the standings and say, okay, well, if you're scoring more goals than you're allowing, you're sitting in a playoff spot. If you're on the other side, you're not. It's the way it is right now in the league. The East has really tightened up with Boston going on this 3-game losing streak, but I think they're going to put out a huge effort tonight. One of the good things that makes me feel not totally doom and gloom about the Bruins yet is for the remainder of the year, the Bruins only have 2 more road games. In fact, I've got
that's really good.
A chart that pulled up that's one of the people I follow on Twitter made that has the entire Eastern Conference playoff race, every team in a column, and how all the games that they got remaining, who they're playing, and what he calls a tragic number. Which tragic number is kind of like the hockey version of the baseball magic number. So a combination of points from the teams above you versus points that you score. Well, right now the Islanders, their tragic number is 18. So what that means is combination of the Bruins getting their points and the Islanders not getting points, adding up to 18, would eliminate them from the playoffs. But anyway, so the remainder of the season, here are Boston's opponents. They're at home versus Tampa Bay, on the road at the Islanders, so they got a head-to-head with them. That'll be huge.
I hope you smash them.
Yep.
I really hope you just destroy them.
And they've played pretty well against them. So, and then 3 home games against Nashville, Dallas, Florida, and then at Chicago, and then they finish out the season at home against Tampa Bay, Ottawa, and Washington. Not the easiest schedule for Boston. The Islanders are at Pittsburgh, at home against Boston, home against Nashville, at Philly, home against New Jersey, at Buffalo, at Nashville, at Carolina, at New Jersey, and then at home against Ottawa. So Islanders have a lot of road games to finish out the year. And then Toronto, since they're right there next to Boston, they are at home against New Jersey, at Buffalo, Florida, at Nashville, at Detroit, at Buffalo. And then look at the final 4 games that Toronto has. All home games, but they got to play Washington, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Columbus.
God.
That's...
Now, I'm going to say this, Wayne. Toronto is a good team.
They are.
I've watched them play. They're good.
The only thing that will save them in those...
a playoff team.
Yeah. The only thing that will save Toronto in that final 4 games is if Washington, Pittsburgh, Columbus sit their stars, which can and does happen. So, all right, well, let's take a look at the West. The West, I think, we can pretty much call this one done. Chicago is already clinched. They are at 100 points. And then the second and third place teams in the Central are Minnesota and St. Louis with 94 and 83. In the Pacific, your top 3 are San Jose with 91, Anaheim 89, Edmonton 87. And then your wild cards right now are Calgary 86, Nashville 83. And then the outside looking in is LA 75, Winnipeg 73, Dallas 68, Vancouver 67, Arizona 63, Colorado 43. And I believe Colorado is now is still the only team officially eliminated from playoff contention. With Los Angeles being 8 points back now, with both teams having 10 to play, I think it's done.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the West is done. So I think your playoffs, and I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. Your 8 playoff teams in the West are going to be Chicago, Minnesota, St. Louis, San Jose, Anaheim, Edmonton, Calgary, Nashville. And depending on, how the games finish will determine who plays who. But I think those are your 8 teams in the West.
I agree with you, Wayne.
All right. Well, as far as other games that have happened over the past week, there were some big games over the past week.
Oh, boy, there were.
Yeah. On the 16th, there were 5 games that had some major implications. Predators beat the Capitals 2-1 in overtime. Blue Jackets beat the Panthers 2-1. Blackhawks beat the Senators 2-1. The Leafs shut out the Lightning 5-0. That kind of sent them reeling. Blues beat the Sharks 4-1. On the 18th, there were several more games. Canadians beat the Senators in a shootout 4-3. Blue Jackets beat the Islanders 3-2 in overtime. Blackhawks beat the Maple Leafs 2-1 in overtime. Capitals beat the Lightning 5-3, and the Ducks beat the Sharks 2-1. On the 19th, Canadiens beat the Senators 4-1. Penguins beat the Panthers 4-0, and the Flames beat the Kings 5-2. On the 20th, there was really only one game worth noting. Oilers beat the Kings 2-0, and then on the 21st, you had Flyers beating the Flames 4-2, and the Wild beating the Sharks 3-2. On the 22nd, you had the Oilers beating the Ducks 4-3, and the Maple Leafs beating the Blue Jackets 5-2. And that one there stuck a knife in my heart because that's the one that made the Maple Leafs pass the Bruins in the standings.
Yeah. And was that the game? That was last night?
That was last night.
Tortorella pitched a literal fit on the bench. Did you see that?
Oh, over that hit?
Over the hit. He literally went, but I haven't seen him do that since he was with the Rangers.
Yeah, yep.
He is, of course, it's funny sometimes to hear it. He's very colorful and fiery. I like John Tortorella.
Yep.
But he can go off, let me tell you.
And I'm pretty sure Polak got injured. Well, he did get injured, or not injured, suspended on that. And we'll get into that when we get to that part of the show. All right. Well, let's move on to transactions. There have been quite a few. And all of these are, again, junior players, college players coming out of those leagues once their team get eliminated and signing with. Now, they're officially signing NHL contracts, but most of these guys, if not all of them, are going to be reporting to the American Hockey League franchise and then go work their way up from there. Tim Gettinger signed with the Rangers out of Sault Ste. Marie. Sam Vigneault signed with the Blue Jackets out of Clarkson University. Callum Booth signed with the Carolina Hurricanes out of the St. John Sea Dogs. So a nice goaltending prospect for the Hurricanes there, which they need to find one because Cam Ward isn't getting any younger. Miro Aaltonen signed with Toronto out of Vitesse.
That's the KHL.
Yep.
Podolsk.
Yep. Tyler Parsons signed with Calgary out of London, the London Knights. Ryan Lomberg signed an NHL contract. Now, he was playing for the Stockton Heat, which is the American League, but I think he was on a tryout contract there. So he signed a full-fledged deal with the Calgary Flames. Ryan Lomberg, a University of Maine alum. Tim Clifton signed with San Jose out of Quinnipiac University. Mitch Holtz signed with the Anaheim Ducks out of Lake Superior State. Libor Hayek signed with Tampa Bay Lightning out of Saskatoon Blades. Jeremy Bracco signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs out of the Windsor Spitfires. Mark Friedman signed with the Flyers out of Bowling Green State University. Luke Kunin signed with the Minnesota Wild out of the University of Wisconsin. And Janne Kukkonen signed with the Carolina Hurricanes out of the London Knights. So, a bunch of signings there. There'll be a bunch more. We'll keep you updated as the weeks go by. Now, a couple other transactions that came across that I saw. Yaroslav Halak got recalled today by the Islanders, so they're going back to a 3-goalie rotation. And of course, he was up with the team before, got sent down, passed through waivers, nobody picked him up, so he is now back with the Islanders. And I don't know if you saw this one. This one came late, and I don't think it's been noted on NHL yet. But the New York Rangers signed Bowling Green junior Chris Nell to an entry-level contract. Nell just wrapped up his junior campaign at Bowling Green, so he left there early. He still has a year of eligibility. He was 17, 14, and 2 with a 2.15 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. He was the school's all-time leader in career shutouts after a terrific sophomore campaign where he finished with a sparkling 1.31 goals against average and a .930 save percentage. He's an undrafted free agent. Nell joins an organization with several young netminders in the mix. Mackenzie Skapski, a 2003 draftee, made his NHL debuts 2 years ago, but has struggled this season, splitting time with the Hartford of the American Hockey League and Greenville of the ECHL. Brandon Halverson, a second-rounder in 2014, also split time between Hartford and Greenville and was recently recalled to New York on an emergency basis. New York also has drafted Russian netminder Igor Shesterkin. Fourth round draft pick in 2014. They have Slovak Adam Huska out of the 7th round in the 2015 draft, and UMass Lowell product Tyler Wall, who is drafted in the 6th round of 2016 draft pick. Tyler Wall, you're going to get to see him in the NCAA tournament coming up here.
Tremendous goalie.
He lives up to his namesake. He's a real good goalie. So the Rangers are just stocking up on goalies.
Yes, they are. They are. Shesterkin is a good player, very good player. And first of all, I want to go back just for a second, if I could, Wayne.
Yeah.
Tom Gettinger is a stud.
Yeah.
With the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, he can play. He's a good player, man. And so be on the lookout for him. The Rangers try to develop offensive guys.
He scored 31 goals with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds this year.
Yeah, and he's from Cleveland, Ohio. He is an American.
Oh, okay.
So, I did a little research on him. He's very good. He's a very good player. So, be on the lookout for him, Rangers fans.
So he probably won't be spending too much time down in the A.
Yeah, the Rangers need, in their Double-A Greenville outfit, and I'm sure with Connecticut, they need offensive scoring power.
Yeah.
So I think he's in the right spot. He'll move up quickly, I believe.
Yep. Well, he'll probably be competing for a job next fall. Most of these guys are signing on with the team. They'll finish out their year or either in the A or the ECHL, and then they'll compete for jobs in the fall.
Mm-hmm. And listen, Tyler Wall is great. He's a great player.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you watched him play this past weekend in Hockey East. he played very, very well.
Yeah, UMass Lowell won the Hockey East tournament, so and he was a major part of that, for sure. All right, well, let's move on to injuries, and there were a few this week, a few more than recent weeks. First one, Vancouver Canucks center Marcus Granlund will have wrist surgery, after which a timetable for his return will be provided. Marcus has an ongoing wrist injury, which we've treated through regular maintenance and rehabilitation, Canucks GM Jim Benning said on Monday. Our Canucks medical team and Marcus believe that surgery is the best course of action for his long-term health, and by having the procedure now allow him to have more time to rehab and work out in preparation for next season. Marcus is an important part of our team, and we're confident he'll have full recovery. Granlund was acquired in a trade with the Flames for forward Hunter Skankaruk on February 22nd. 69 games, he has 19 goals and 32 points, and ranks second on the Canucks in goals behind Bo Harvard. And he's only 23, so he's, I think it's smart for the Vancouver. They're not going to make the playoffs anyway, to shut him down, get him ready for next year.
Right.
Winnipeg center Sean Matthias will have shoulder surgery and miss the remainder of the season. He had a pre-existing labral tear that he's been trying to deal with, and he just got to the point where he can't, Coach Paul Maurice said. It's full-on rehab. We're talking about months. Matthias had 12 points in 45 games this season. He last played in a 5-4 overtime loss at Nashville on Monday. The Jets entered Saturday 10 points behind the Blues for the second wild card into the Stanley Cup playoffs in the Western Conference. Matthias, a second-round pick by the Red Wings in the 2006 NHL Draft, has 97 points in 312 games through 10 seasons with the Red Wings, Panthers, Canucks, Leafs, and Avalanche and Jets. He did not play for the Red Wings. That's another case where they're shutting him down for the year. They're not going to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh Penguins center Evgeny Malkin didn't play against the Devils on Friday of last week because of an upper body injury. Penguins coach Mike Sullivan said the issue is something that has been bothering Malkin for a while. Sullivan said he expected to have more information on Malkin's status on Saturday. He's fifth on the NHL with 72 points and tied for fourth with 33 goals. He missed 7 games from January 26th to February 11th with a lower body injury. Now, I put this article in there Tuesday in my show notes, and I hadn't checked up on him. But as of Tuesday afternoon, he had not come back yet, so that's why I included that one. Mm-hmm. Usually I don't include injuries for players that get hurt and then come back before we even start recording. So
Right.
So I'm not sure what his status is, but it seems like it's a day-to-day thing for him. So no need to have all doom and gloom amongst Pittsburgh fans. All right. St. Louis Blues forward Paul Stastny is week to week with a lower body injury. Stastny will not play in the final did not play in the final 2 periods of a 4-2 win against the Avalanche on Tuesday. Coach Mike Yao said Stastny was not injured when he was hit by a shot taken by teammate Vladimir Tarasenko, but that the center tweaked something. Stastny missed 4 games with a lower body injury sustained on February 10th. He has 40 points in 66 games. That's a big loss for St. Louis if they want to. They are sitting in a playoff spot, so yep. Hopefully they'll get him back before the playoffs. I would imagine he'll probably will, because they're going to need him.
Yes.
All right, and finally, there's a couple more here. According to Newsday's Arthur Staple, the Islanders' third-line center suffered a broken wrist in the second period. Dylan Strome is the player we're talking about here. Suffered a broken wrist in the second period of his team's 3-2 win over the New York Rangers. Per Staples, Strome will miss the rest of the regular season, and the team would have to go deep in the playoffs for him to return. The 23-year-old Strome has 30 points and averaging 14.36 of ice time per game. That'll hurt their chances.
Yes, that will. And when he was hurt last night, he went immediately off the ice. So,
yep. So it looks like he's out for the rest of the year. And speaking of being out the rest of the year, Toronto Maple Leafs forward Eric Fehr may be done for the rest of the regular season after injuring his hand on Wednesday against the Blue Jackets. Fehr was acquired by the Maple Leafs from the Penguins at the trade deadline. Wednesday was his first game with Toronto. The 31-year-old had 6 goals and 11 points in 53 games this season. Well, that sucks for Toronto. Obviously, he must have been a healthy scratch if he got acquired at the trade deadline. He only played his first game Wednesday night. So, obviously not a big loss for Toronto, but he would have been a good depth guy to have in the playoffs. But it doesn't look like they're going to have his services. Yep. So, they got exactly 1 game out of him. I hope what they traded was worth it.
Yeah. That's
Because
true.
he's probably an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, if I had to guess.
That kind of stinks. That really stinks for Toronto. But
right.
I'm going to say it. I think, if I had to pick, Toronto's going to make the playoffs, whether they're the wild card or the third place team. I don't think they're going to. I could be wrong. I don't think they're going to finish second.
Yeah, I think they're going to ultimately make the playoffs. I just hope it's not in that number 3 spot, because that'll make. I'm just. It's all the way I'm thinking is Boston needs to get out of that last wild card spot, because they're going to have to play the winner of the Metro division, whoever that may be, and apparently all 3 teams that are in the top 3 are going for that President's Trophy. So whoever it is, it's not going to be an easy opponent. And quite frankly, back to the playoffs, the Rangers are sitting pretty right now. I think they're in the best spot they can be going into the playoffs, because being in that first wild card and knowing how big of a difference there is between the first place in the Atlantic, first place in Metro, the Rangers essentially are going to be playing their way through the Atlantic division and not the Metro.
Right.
So they won't have to face Washington, Pittsburgh, or Columbus until the Eastern Conference Final.
Right. What I think happens inevitably every year, is why it costs the Rangers, is attrition takes the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, if you're in the Metro division, or you pull for a Metro division team, as you know, the Capitals can wear you down. The Penguins can wear you down.
Yep.
And this year, let me tell you, the Columbus Blue Jackets will wear you down.
Yep.
So you're going to be fighting against 2 teams. That's what's going to happen. It's probably going to go 7 games, 6 or 7.
Yep.
You're going to be losing.
Those 3 teams are going to be. Yeah, those 3 teams are going to be busy beating each other up in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Rangers are going to get. They're going to get either Ottawa or Montreal in the first round, and then they're going to play the winner. They're going to stay in the Atlantic Division right until the 3rd round. Then whatever team survives the first 2 rounds in the Metro, the Rangers, in theory, if they advance, would end up playing whoever that is.
Yes,
So.
I'm pleased with it, but the way we've been playing recently, to lose to the New Jersey Devils in overtime, and then the last night's loss to the New York Islanders. We got to start putting pucks in the back of the net.
They just got to find their game before the playoffs start.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move back to milestones, records, honors, and death. No deaths this week. Milestones, records, and honors. Boston Bruins left wing Brad Marchand, Pittsburgh Penguins center Sidney Crosby, and Calgary Flames goaltender Brian Elliott have been named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending March 19th. Marchand led the NHL with a 5-4-9 9 points in 3 games, all multi-point performances to power the Bruins to a pair of victories. This is obviously a little bit older. Crosby paced the league. Well, this was announced Monday. Crosby paced the league with 6 goals and ranked second with 8 points in 4 starts to guide the Penguins to a 2-1-1 week. And Elliott went 3-0 with a 1.95 and a .926 save percentage to help the Flames maintain 3rd place in the Pacific Division. So kudos to those 3 guys.
Yes.
The next milestone, Eric Stahl played his 1,000th game on Sunday. So minor milestone for him, but, actually anybody playing 1,000 games, that's not minor, but kudos to him for his 1,000th game played on Sunday. And then finally, the last one I have is another Jaromir Jagr milestone. Seems like we're doing one of these every week lately.
Yeah.
Jaromir Jagr had 2 assists on Friday to pass Gordie Howe with his 269th NHL point after turning 40, the most in history. And he said in a quote after, he said, "I'm going to pass him for the most points after 50, Jagr said. That's what I'm looking for, he said. Jagr, who turned 45 on February 15th, assisted on goals by Jonathan Huberdeau and Alexander Barkov in a 4-3 win against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Jagr has 1,907 NHL points, second behind Wayne Gretzky's 2,857. Howe played until he was 42 and then had 41 points in one season as a 51-year-old to finish with 1,850, fourth behind Messier, who has 1,887. He said, "It's a big honor, no question about it," Jagr said. "It's no accident they call him Mr. Hockey, so it's a big honor to me." Jagr would become the 4th player in NHL history to play 1,700 games on Sunday in Pittsburgh, where he began his NHL career at age 18 in 1991. And he did play in that game, and they did a tribute to him during that game. So,
Hey, Wayne, what do you think? Jaromir Jagr, not only is he a brilliant player and just phenomenal, but he has that mentality, and I could see him playing for 3 or 4 more years. I could see it where he's not going to listen to somebody say, "Hey, you really should quit." It's
no. It's one thing I know about Jágr. He's not going to listen to that kind of talk. He's going to play until all 30 teams tell him that they don't have a place for him. Yep. And then even then, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to the KHL and plays a couple of more years.
And he might. Or listen, Chris Chelios, what was he? 47, 48. He went down and played in the AHL for the Chicago Wolves.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think Jágr will do that. I think Jágr is. I don't think he would go to the A. I think if the NHL doesn't have a job for him, I think he'll end up back in the K. I would actually be kind of surprised if he didn't play 1 or 2 more years in the K, because they'll take him. At whatever age he is, they'll take him.
Go play for Zagreb or one of those teams, Croatia.
Yeah. Probably one of the Czech-based teams.
Yeah, you're probably right, Wayne. But he's not going to. He's definitely got years of hockey left in him. I firmly believe it.
He's in phenomenal shape for his age. Yeah. I mean, hell. And I was joking with my dad when I talked to him the other night. I told him, I said, I still got a shot because there's at least one player in the NHL that's still older than me. So.
That's good, Wayne.
Yeah.
Your number one fan sitting right here talking to you. If you make the NHL, I'll be mortgaging the house to come up with ticket money. Until
I become the oldest player in the NHL, I still got a shot, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So no, it's an amazing thing to see Jágr play. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you saw it, but the traveling Jágrs were in New York to see him for that game.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yep.
I didn't see that.
Yep. There were 8 of them there. I don't know how many there are. I think they've had as many as 15 or 16, but there were 8 of them that traveled to New York to see his appearance against the Rangers that night. And they were representing all 8 NHL teams that he's played for. So
with that hair, man, he could pass as a Hansen. He could easily pass as a Hansen.
For sure. All right. Let's move on to suspensions. And we had 4 suspensions this past week. First one, Buffalo Sabres. Rasmus Ristolainen will have a hearing. Actually, not 4. 2 of these are about Ristolainen. I have the story in here twice. I got the story saying he'll have a hearing, and then the story came out today. Rasmus Ristolainen has been suspended for 3 games without pay for interference against the Pittsburgh Penguins against forward Jake Gunsel during NHL game 1076 in Buffalo on Tuesday, March 21st. And the National Hockey League's Department of Player Safety announced that today. The incident occurred at 8:46 of the first period. Ristolainen was assessed a major penalty for interference and a game misconduct. Under the terms of the collective bargaining agreement and based on his average annual salary, Ristolainen will forfeit $90,000. And as you said earlier, actually that was a different play. But yeah, Ristolainen, he had been waiting a couple days to get a verdict on that one too. I don't know what took so long. So, but I did see the hit, and yes, he absolutely deserved to be suspended for that one. It was a pretty brutal hit. Next one, Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Roman Polak has been suspended for 2 games without pay for boarding Columbus Blue Jackets forward Oliver Bjorkstrand during NHL game number 1086 in Columbus on Wednesday, March 22nd. The NHL League's Department of Player Safety announced also today. The incident occurred at 1 minute of the third period. Polak was assessed a major penalty for boarding and a game misconduct. Under the terms of collective bargaining agreement, Polak will forfeit $25,000. So, and you said that was the one that the Columbus head coach was. Ripped about.
Tortorella.
Yeah,
he was pissed. He was. I watched the. One of the best things to do, Wayne, because as I said, I love John Tortorella. He's a great character in the game.
He certainly is.
If you go on YouTube and you dial up John Tortorella's biggest arguments, or Tortorella's biggest, you go on. There's a list of them.
I'm sure.
You would laugh yourself silly on some of his stuff. It is, in fact, I could give you one for my honorary mention pick of the week, but I'm not going to do that. But he ripped into Jumbo Joe Thornton one time, and it was just hilarious. But anyways, beside the point.
Yep. All right, and our final suspension this week, Calgary Flames forward Matthew Tkachuk has been suspended for 2 games without pay for elbowing Los Angeles Kings defenseman Drew Doughty during NHL game number 1069 in Calgary on Sunday, March 19th. The NHL's Department of Player Safety announced on Monday the incident occurred at 19:35 of the first period, and he will forfeit $10,277.78. So he's on an entry-level deal, so he doesn't have to pay or forfeit as much. But it looks like he's going to be the same hard-hitting kind of player that his dad was. His dad was Keith Tkachuk. So, or his dad is Keith Tkachuk. Keith is still with us.
Great player, Keith Tkachuk.
Yeah, he certainly was.
Yep.
All right, and some of the other interesting stories I had coming out this week. The Vegas Golden Knights are back in the news, and they announced earlier this week that they plan to be very active when NHL free agency begins. General Manager George McPhee told the Las Vegas Review-Journal, "Money's not a problem," McPhee said Monday in a Q&A with season ticket holders. "Our owner, Bill Foley, is not afraid to spend to get the right player, and it's our job to identify who those players are." Some players who can become unrestricted free agents are San Jose center Joe Thornton, Washington Capitals forward TJ Oshie, and Capitals defenseman Kevin Shattenkirk. From June 18th through 20th, Vegas will have a chance to sign any restricted or unrestricted free agent left unprotected by his team for the NHL expansion draft. NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley said these free agents would not otherwise be allowed to sign with a team different than the one that they played for this season until July 1st. That 72-hour free agent window coincides with the expansion draft process. If a free agent does sign with the Golden Knights during that window, he would be Vegas's one selection from that player's former team. And then it goes on talking about how the Vegas has to pick up, one player from each team. This does not preclude Vegas from claiming unprotected free agent during the expansion draft and gaining an exclusive window to sign the player before July 1, but the NHL has given the Golden Knights the window to reduce the chance they will claim a player who has no intention of signing with them. So that was that story, and then there was a second story with them. The Vegas Golden Knights also plan to unveil their jerseys prior to the NHL expansion draft in June. He told the Las Vegas Review-Journal on Tuesday. They're expected to be able to be available for purchase in September. The Golden Knights unveiled their logo and colors on November 22nd. The logo is a helmet that includes a V to represent Las Vegas, and secondary logos include swords that create the star from the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. So I was wondering when they were going to put jerseys out. Looks like it's going to happen right before the expansion draft.
And I guarantee you, Wayne, when those jerseys come out, they're going to be the number 1 jersey in the NHL.
I'm already starting to see. I've seen, of course, I go to the rink 2-3 nights a week now, so I get to see, what out in the wild, so to speak, what people are wearing. I've already seen a couple of T-shirts, a couple of sweatshirts with Vegas Golden Knights logos on them.
Unbelievable.
Obviously, you're not going to see any jerseys yet because they haven't released them yet. But
it's an exciting thing. I really, I won't be buying a jersey, but I will like to see people wear them. And,
hey, who knows? If a former Bruins ends up in Vegas, and I can get the jersey out of some of the places on the internet where I've gotten them for dirt cheap, I'll bite.
Yeah.
If it's a former Bruin, so. But. We've talked about some of those places where you can get jerseys for a very low price. So, all right, and the last story I have: the 2017 Scotiabank NHL 100 Classic, featuring the Ottawa Senators and Montreal Canadiens, will take place on Saturday, December 16th, at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. The outdoor game will pay tribute to a century of NHL contests, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the league's first games played on December 19, 1917. The announcement of 2017 Scotiabank NHL 100 Classic was made in Ottawa, continuing the year-long NHL Centennial festivities, while Canada celebrates 150 years of Confederation and the Stanley Cup, most revered trophy in all of sports, celebrates its 125th anniversary. So you got a lot going on in Canada. You got 100th anniversary of the league, 125th anniversary of the Cup, and 150th year of Canada's Confederation.
Yeah.
all going on this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I looked at that. I was kind of disappointed. I looked at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. I looked it up on a map. I'm like, oh wow, are they going to play an outdoor game like not in a stadium, like in a regular setting? But no, this is a soccer stadium that, and I think the Canadian Football League plays there too. So it's. But it's kind of cool. It's not a very big stadium, so that'll be pretty neat. There was a lot of people that were talking about having the game being played outdoor on Parliament Hill, but the NHL wants to sell tickets, so they're gonna keep putting games in stadium. I wish they would just play an outdoor game. Let's play an outdoor game. Like, I don't think you could get them to do it on a frozen pond, but at least in an open air park with no stands whatsoever. Maybe put up temporary stands, put a few thousand in there, and that's it. I'd like to see an outdoor game for that, but but they want the tickets, ticket sales. So, but with that in mind, let's talk about with the NHL Centennial festivities. We found out shortly after we recorded last week's show that Carolina is getting their turn to have the NHL Centennial Arena. The mobile, the trailer truck that's going around to all 30 teams. They're coming April 1st and April 2nd. To Raleigh.
Yes.
And you and I are very excited to attend that because, for you, it'll be your first time. For me, it'll be my second, getting our picture taken with the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I can hardly wait. I've never seen the Stanley Cup, Wayne. All these years I've been following the NHL, and I'm finally going to get an opportunity, Lord willing, to be there on this not this weekend but next to have that's going to be a great day for me.
Yep. And I'm tentatively thinking of going twice because I'm going to get a picture with me and my son. We'll probably go on Saturday for that. And if I can get dirt cheap tickets for the game, because the Canes played against Dallas on Saturday night that night. So it'll be a if the weather is nice, there'll be a lot of tailgate and everything else going on there. So I'll probably go and be part of that on Saturday. But then you and I are going on Sunday to visit that. And, we're going to have a lot of fun. So if any of you folks out there are local to the Raleigh-Durham area and want to meet us in person, give us a shout out either on Twitter or on email, and I'll give you those addresses at the end of the show. And we can probably come up with a meetup if we get anybody. I don't know how many people we have listening locally around here, but if they want to meet us, we'd be happy to meet some of the folks that are listening to our show.
Sure.
But we will be there. Steve and I will be there on Sunday is the tentative plan right now, April 2nd. So we're both very, very excited for that. All right. And the last thing I have is just a note that the Canadian Hockey League playoffs got underway, I believe, tonight. So the road to the Memorial Cup, which is huge in Canada. People in the U.S. don't care, but
yeah, that's right.
But in Canada, it's a huge thing. So there's roughly 60 or so teams play in Canadian Hockey League, which includes the Western Hockey League, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and the Ontario Hockey League. And basically, these are the best 18 to 20. Well, actually, there's some kids young as 16 playing in that league. The best 16 to 20-year-old kids in the country play in that league, essentially. The ones that don't choose to come to the U.S. and play college anyway. There's roughly 60 teams combined across the three leagues, and they all compete for their own league championship. And then I believe, is it 4 teams that advance on to the Memorial Cup?
I believe that's correct. 4 teams advance to the Memorial.
The 3 champions and the host team go to the Memorial Cup. And then, of course, ultimately, that's their version of the national championship for the 16 to 20-year-olds. So their playoffs get underway, and 48 teams have made the playoffs there. So good luck to all the teams that are playing in that tournament. All right, well, let's move on to the HockeyNuts.com power rankings for this week, and it is your turn this week.
It is my turn this week, and there's maybe a couple surprises in there. But for the most part, it's right in line with the standings. At number 16, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is where they were last week. At number 15, I have the St. Louis Blues, which is where they were last week.
Yep.
At number 14, the Boston Bruins. They were at 12 last week. They had a couple games, but not too far down. They're right, hanging tight. Number 13, the Nashville Predators. They were at 14 last week. I moved them up one. Ottawa took a drop from 8 to 12. They are the 12th place team. They fell, and
Well, they got swept in a home and home against Montreal before they beat Boston. So
right. They did not have a good week. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
Number 11, Calgary. They were number 10 last week. Of course, they won those 10 games in a row, and they've come back down to earth a little bit since then. At number 10, moving up one from last week, is the Anaheim Ducks. I had them at 11 last week.
Yeah, they're getting playoff ready.
Yep. Number 9, the Edmonton Oilers, moving up from 13. And they're playing very well. No question they're going to make the playoffs. And, boy, what an exciting team to watch this year in the NHL with Connor McDavid and all those guys. They're playing very well.
Yep.
Number 8, Montreal, moving up one from 9 last week. Number 7, the San Jose Sharks. They were at 7 for several weeks. Then they took 2 steps up, and this week I got them moving 2 steps back.
To number 7.
To number 7, that's right. Number 6, Minnesota, hanging tight. That's where they were last week. Number 5, the New York Rangers moved up 2 slots, but and if you look at the standings, it's really where they deserve to be.
Yep.
But at 4-4-2, they're not playing well in their last 10 games. The Chicago Blackhawks 4, they were 4 last week. Columbus 3, they were 3 last week. Number 2, Pittsburgh falls back out of the first place slot, moving down to number 2 from number 1, and the Washington Capitals reassume the top spot at number 1. They were number 2 last week.
Very good.
Looking good for the upcoming playoffs, the Capitals. So
yep, good, very good. And they do finish the season on the road in all but 4 games remaining. So they got 10 games remaining, 6 of them on the road. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look at our teams. Let's take a look ahead anyway at what's coming up this week. And of course, we're recording a day late, so some of the games are it's kind of a short schedule this week. Boston has 3 games in the next few days until we record again. They're at Tampa Bay tonight on the 23rd. They're at the Islanders on the 25th, and they're at home against Nashville on the 28th. So definitely the Tampa Bay and New York Islander games are must-wins, absolutely must-wins. Nashville is one of those where they can afford to possibly lose that game, but you definitely want to get at least a point out of that one. So they definitely need a 5 out of 6 points in the next 3 games. Carolina, on the other hand, is still trying to climb. They've got a busy week coming up because one of them is the makeup games that from a game that got canceled due to a snowstorm here. But first, they're at Montreal tonight, and they're at New Jersey on the 25th, and then they got 2 straight home games and 2 straight nights against Detroit. So Detroit will come here, play an old-fashioned college back-to-back
yeah.
with Carolina.
And Wayne, we know that Detroit's not going to make the playoffs this year.
Nope.
So as a consolation, I'm hoping that and I had it all set and now I forgot his name. Well, the Moe's spokesman for the Carolina Hurricanes. You know who I'm talking about. Free Queso.
Justin Falk, yeah.
Justin Falk, I can't believe I forgot him. If he scores in that first game, I'm hoping that the Detroit players show up at Moe's in Raleigh
for their free queso.
Get their free queso.
Can you imagine? Yeah. He scored on us last night. Can we get our free queso?
I hope it happens.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
So, and then of course all games, as far as the Eastern Conference playoffs are concerned. Going back to Boston, Carolina, where they're struggling to make the playoffs. Any game involving Toronto, Tampa Bay, and the Islanders right now are big games on my watch list as well. So now the Rangers have 3 games coming up, right?
We have that terrible West Coast California road trip. We got those 3 games in California.
Oh, you got that one. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's coming up. We play the Kings Saturday night, 10:30 game. Anaheim Sunday night, 9 o'clock game. And then Tuesday night we play again at 10:30 against the San Jose Sharks.
So you're probably not going to get to see too many Rangers games, at least not live.
I won't. I'll watch that Saturday night game, and I might be able to stay up Sunday night, but I'm probably going to miss that Tuesday night game because it's just too late, and I got too much to do.
Yeah, your day starts super early in the morning, so.
Yeah. So a very a very tough week for us, Wayne. If we can get points in 2 of those games, I'll be happy. We're playing well on the road. But those are 3 juggernaut teams to play. They're all going to make the playoffs. And, I shouldn't say that. The Kings are not going to make the playoffs.
No, but they're still fighting for a spot. So they're
right.
not going to go down easy.
That's right.
So yeah, that road trip is tough for any team to go out and do the California road swing.
It's a walk the plank road trip.
Yep.
It really is.
But everybody's got to do it. So
that's right.
So yeah, it's toughy, but it just stinks that your team's got to do it at this late in the year. It's always better to get it out of the way in October when you don't have to worry so much about it. But after that, all right. So other games that I've got circled on the calendar too, other than in games involving our teams and of course Toronto, Tampa Bay, and the Islanders are going to be on my calendar. But other games going on that have playoff implications: Islanders at Penguins. That's tomorrow night. Senators, Canadiens on Friday. Flames, Blues on Friday. Sharks, Predators on Friday. On Saturday, Flyers, Penguins. Actually, I think I got my days wrong.
Yeah.
The Senators, Canadiens, Flames, Blues, Sharks, Predators. Those are Saturday. I'm sorry, got that wrong. And then Flyers, Penguins. That's your Sunday
game of the week.
Yep, game of the week. And then on Monday, you've got Predators, Islanders, Blackhawks, Lightning. And then on Tuesday night, a bunch of games. Kings, Oilers, Senators, Flyers, Panthers, Maple Leafs, Capitals, Wild. And then next Wednesday, your game or your rivalry game is Blackhawks, Penguins. And then later on that night, Kings, Flames. So those are all the big games I've got circled coming up this week.
Yeah, those are every one of those. And in a rare time on the 26th, I'll be pulling for the Flyers again against the Pittsburgh Penguins, which almost never happens, but I'll be pulling for them that night.
Yep.
So
well, I'm rooting for anybody who's playing Toronto or New York Islanders right now. So whoever it is, even if it's Montreal.
I'm rooting for anybody playing against the New York Islanders.
Well, at least we got something in common this week then.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Well, let's move on to college hockey. Now, before we move on to the NCAA tournament, let's recap finally all of the conference tournaments and just list for you all of the teams that won their conference tournaments. In the Atlantic Hockey Playoffs, Air Force ended up beating Robert Morris in the championship game of that conference. In the Big Ten, Penn State beat Wisconsin in the championship.
I believe that was in overtime, too.
Yeah, I don't have the scores. I just have the tournament brackets in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the ECAC, Harvard beat Cornell to win the automatic bid. Because, of course, the conference winners in all these conferences get the automatic bid.
Mm-hmm.
In Hockey East, we mentioned it before, UMass Lowell beat Boston College. And that essentially eliminated Boston College from being able to continue their season. So their season ended with that game. But UMass Lowell won the Hockey East tournament for they've been in the last 5 championship games.
Yep. Somebody said it was the 3rd win in the last 5 years.
Yep. So, yeah, Lowell's doing pretty well. They just haven't done anything in the national tournament. They go to the national tournament and lose out early. Reminds me of Maine back in the 80s before they started winning at the national level. In the NCHC conference, Minnesota Duluth beat North Dakota in the championship game of that conference. Mm-hmm. So Minnesota Duluth moves on to the NCAA tournament in the automatic bid. And then Bowling Green lost to Michigan Tech in the WCHA.
Yes.
So, and then obviously Bowling Green's season ended, and that's when their goalie took off.
Yeah, that's right. Mr.
All
Nell.
right. So let's move on to I don't know. What do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about bracketology before we do the field?
We could. Now, when you say bracketology,
well, I wanted to point out that Jason Moy, the guy who does the bracketology article on U.S. College Hockey Online, didn't correctly predict the entire bracket.
Yes.
But he did pick for the umpteenth time in a row, pick all exact 16 teams that made the tournament. He just didn't get the bracket right this year. He's had some years where he's gotten the bracket spot on, but this year he looked like he overthought it a little bit.
Yeah.
But he did get the 16 teams right. So kudos to him once again for picking the 16-team field for the NCAA tournament. So with that, let's get on to the tournament.
Yes.
Now, the 16-team field has been set. So in Cincinnati, and I guess we can just go ahead and go through the brackets and give you our predictions on what's going to happen. You have number 1, Denver against Michigan Tech, and Union against Penn State.
Yeah.
Those games are going to be March 24th and 25th in Cincinnati. Now, my pick for that tournament is I obviously believe Denver is going to knock off Michigan Tech, and I think Penn State's going to knock off Union in that other game. And then Denver ultimately will come out of that and advance to the Frozen Four.
That's exactly what I picked.
Yep.
I picked the very same thing. And Wayne, let's say you and I have not talked about this.
Not at all.
We haven't. So that's the first time I've heard that, and that's exactly what I picked.
Yep.
Although I think that Union Penn State game was going to be a bloodbath. That's going to be really a game to watch because Union College. It's been, 2 years, 3 years? They won the national championship.
Yeah, just recently they won. Yeah,
Vecchione was on that team, so
yep.
He's back for a senior, one more shot at it.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the Northeast Regional in Manchester, New Hampshire. The top seed in that foursome is Minnesota, and they're going to be playing Notre Dame, and UMass Lowell will be playing Cornell in the other game in the on March 24th. And I think Minnesota, I'm debating on that one. I think Minnesota ultimately will come out of that one just because I think at the national level, Minnesota always seems to do well. So I think they're going to come out of that one. And I think this is UMass Lowell's year. They're going to come out of the bottom end of that bracket. They're going to beat Cornell, and then they're going to beat Minnesota to advance to the I think Lowell's going to go to the Frozen Four this year.
Well,
to face Denver.
I picked UMass Lowell to make it through as well. However, I picked Notre Dame
beating Minnesota
to beat Minnesota.
Okay.
Notre Dame's played well against top-ranked teams, this year in their schedule. They've done well. So I just think that Notre Dame is the type of team. I've watched a few of their games this year. If they get the lead, they're tough to, they're
tough to come back from. Yeah,
they're tough to come back from.
Yep.
But if they get down, UMass Lowell pounded them in Hockey East.
Yep.
So that's the whole key to that team. If Cal Peterson is on his game and they have the lead, they're very hard to come back and beat.
Yep, it certainly is. All right, now this next bracket, this is the West Regional in Fargo, North Dakota. And this is the regional where I think Boston University got screwed royally with the placement in this tournament. Here's why. Of course, the games are being held in Fargo, North Dakota. Boston University's got to play North Dakota in the first round.
Yeah.
It's essentially a road game for them because the BU fans are not going to – very few are going to travel all the way out there for the game. So the building's going to be filled with all North Dakota fans, and as a result, I think BU is going to be one and done in this year's tournament. North Dakota's going to advance in that one. In the other game in that bracket, the highest seed of the four teams playing there, Minnesota Duluth, should get by Ohio State without too much trouble. And then because of the fact that it's in North Dakota, I'm picking North Dakota to come out of that to advance to the Frozen Four. Yep.
Yeah, and I thought about that.
Because it's a home game for them, and they always do well there.
It is. And I thought about that. I had them beating Boston University as well, and I had Minnesota Duluth. That's probably going to be the second easiest game of the tournament in the first round, and watch us both have egg on our face with the Denver Minnesota Tech game. I think
number one seeds have lost before.
Yep, it can happen.
Yep.
But I picked Minnesota Duluth to beat North Dakota. I hope
they do.
I hope they do
because I can't stand the advantage that North Dakota has this year's tournament. playing at home.
Yep. I just feel like Minnesota Duluth is a great team, and they are going to do it. I think they're going to win the game.
Yep.
So I could be wrong.
All right. Well, let's hope you're right, because my heart says Minnesota Duluth. My mind says North Dakota, just because of the home ice factor. All right, and in the final regional, you've got the East Regional being played in Providence, Rhode Island, and you've got Harvard is the highest seed in that bracket, playing against Providence in the first game, and Western Michigan playing against Air Force. I think Western Michigan will come out of that bottom end of that bracket, and I think Harvard's going to beat Providence in that game. Even though the game's in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's in a sense a home game from Providence, Harvard University is about an hour drive from there, maybe 2 hours. So it's Providence is not going to enjoy the home ice advantage the way North Dakota would in Fargo, because with Harvard being there, it's not that far away. I think it's going to be a split crowd in that building. Harvard has been playing very well all year long.
Oh,
so
God, they haven't let up at all. They played very well all year. I think
Harvard's going to come out of that bracket to go to the Frozen Four.
That's exactly what I picked.
All right.
This is exactly what I picked.
So let's go ahead. Let's advance this out. So I've got Denver, Lowell, North Dakota, and Harvard in the Frozen Four.
And I have Denver, Lowell, Minnesota Duluth, and Harvard.
Yep, which takes place in the Frozen Four is in Chicago this year. So no real home advantage for any of those teams. So I've got I'm going to go Harvard coming out to play in the national championship game out of the bottom part of the bracket. And I think this is Denver's year, though. They're going to beat Lowell, and then I've got Denver winning the national championship. I'm going chalk on that one. They've been playing so well all year long. I think this is Denver's year.
I had UMass Lowell winning it. I had Harvard and UMass. I had UMass Lowell winning the whole tournament. So that's how I picked it. And again, I don't know. It's really my first time doing an NCAA bracket.
Yeah. But you know what the greatest thing about watching this, and I'll probably watch more of this tournament than I will NHL hockey over the next couple of weeks. This is a 16-team tournament, and every game is one and done. So every puck bounce, every possession, it's like a bunch of game sevens.
Yeah.
It's just, 16 teams playing all game sevens. It's one and done. There's no series. There's no drawn out playoffs. It's the first team to win 4 games.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. It only takes 4 games to win the national championship in college hockey. So that's the beauty of it, because upsets happen. Overtime games are huge. I mean, it's heartbreak for the losing team, and it's total elation for the winning team at every step of the way, not just the championship and the final Frozen Four. It's fantastic to watch. And most of the games will be on. I was looking at the TV schedule. Most of the games are going to be on that ESPN3, which I believe is online. You can watch all the games on the ESPN family of networks. So I don't have. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I think the NCAA bracket has the games, the TV schedule. Yes. So ESPNU and ESPN3 are going to have the first and second round games. Mm-hmm. So ESPNU is obviously a TV channel, and ESPN3 is their online component. So every game you'll be able to watch either online, watching it streamed, or you can watch it through your cable provider. There's one game in the first and second round that's going to be on TV on ESPN2, and that's the North Dakota BU game. But all the rest of the first and second round games are either on ESPNU or ESPN3. The Frozen Four, the semifinal games are on ESPN2, and the championship game will be on ESPN, the mothership. And that game is 8 o'clock p.m. on April 8th, which I believe is the weekend after the NCAA wraps up their tournament, I believe, the basketball tournament. So, because hockey doesn't want to compete with basketball.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yes.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And Chicago's a great place to have the championship too. So
yep.
That's definitely a hockey crowd city there.
So, yeah, the games get started on Friday. The 8 teams of the 16 will be in action tomorrow. And the first game starts at 3 p.m. That's the North Dakota-Boston University game. And then the other side of the bracket gets started on Friday. So you got one side of the bracket plays their games Friday, Saturday. The other side are Saturday, Sunday. So by Sunday, the last game is Sunday at 6 p.m. So by 9 p.m. Sunday night, we'll know who the Frozen Four teams are. That's how quickly this tournament gets down to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, good. All right, well, let's move on to the KHL Minute. And
Yes.
pretty much our KHL Minute this week is just going to continue to talk about the KHL playoffs because they're moving things right along, too.
Yes, they are. It's really amazing, actually.
We're already into the conference finals.
Yes, and it is quite something. The historic defeat of the CSKA Army team.
Yep.
Who last week when we reported this, Wayne, it was 2-2.
That's right.
And Lokomotiv came out and won the last 2 games of that series, and that was all she wrote for CSKA.
Yep.
So,
yep, the number one team in the entire league in the regular season, CSKA. Yep, got eliminated in 6 games against Lokomotiv. And I noticed, too, one of the key players playing for Lokomotiv, none other than former Bruin Max Talbot.
yeah, I did not know that.
Did he play for the Rangers, too?
Maxime Talbot, no.
I know he played for the Penguins.
He was the Penguins.
He won a cup with the Penguins, played for the Bruins. Yep. His last NHL team was the Bruins. Bruins just didn't have room for him on the roster, and he ended up signing with the KHL this year, and he's been a major part of that Lokomotiv team.
And that is really they're now playing the team that probably most people would say would win the Western Conference, and that would be SKA St. Petersburg.
Yep.
We talked about how Pavel Datsyuk got in a fight last time.
Yep.
They wound up defeating Dynamo Moscow 4-1, and they really. They're set. I don't know what the series is right now, but I know that the conference finals just started.
Yeah, the second round essentially went, SKA beat Dynamo in 5. Lokomotiv beat CSKA in 6. And they've already played the first game of the final, the conference final, and SKA won that game 5-4 in overtime.
So we're progressing right along here.
It's 1-0 in the West in terms of that series. In the East, Metallurg Magnitogorsk swept Berries 4-0.
Yeah.
And AK Bars beat Avangard in 6. And so in the conference final, and that is Metallurg and AK Bars, but they haven't played their first game yet.
Yeah, I believe they played tonight.
That game, well, tonight it's 1700 Moscow time is the time. So which would be what, early afternoon, late morning, early afternoon for us tomorrow morning. So
that's right.
Yep.
And they do have a 2-2-1-1-1 format, Wayne.
Oh, it is. You did find that out. Good.
I did find that out. So I think and the teams that have the advantage is SKA and Metallurg.
I think it's going to come down to those two.
I really do. I think it's going to come down to those two. And Metallurg may pull off their 3rd straight Gagarin Cup. So you never know. But it's exciting to read the reports on it. Obviously, the games are tight and close. And Metallurg is definitely not feeling the pressure. They are definitely trying to put together a dynasty, and I don't see them cracking under the pressure of this at all. So, Sergei Mozyakin,
he still keeps going, doesn't he?
He does. Absolutely amazing.
Yep, crazy. So, yeah, we're getting right down to it in the Russian league. Boy, they don't waste any time. As soon as the series end, they move on to the next. Well, I guess the big difference is none of these series are going to 7. I haven't seen a 7-game series yet.
Yeah, I don't believe it has.
So the NHL playoffs would move right along too if they didn't play a lot. But NHL's got so much parity that you're guaranteed to have at least one 7-game series in each round.
Oh, yep.
Which is awesome because I love watching Game 7s. No matter who's playing, love watching Game 7s. And I chew off all my nails when the Bruins play Game 7.
They're going to be in the playoffs.
I'm a nervous wreck. I think the Game 7 in 2011 when the Bruins won the Cup, I think the Game 7, I don't think I sat down. I was standing the whole entire 3rd period in that game.
Hey, speaking of that, and Alain Vigneault came up on the losing end of that game. I noticed that one of the guys that you highlighted who was part of the transaction part of the program If I'm not mistaken, his name was Sam Vigneault.
Yeah.
Is he related to Alain Vigneault?
I don't know. Something worth looking into.
Yeah, spelled the same. I didn't know. You might have known, but I will check into that. And see what the answer to that is. I'll report back next week.
Yeah, his profile doesn't say anything on Elite Prospects, but I'm not sure they do report on that kind of stuff. So yeah, do some research. We'll find out.
Okay.
Cool.
Very good.
All right, so let's move on. Now that KHL's over with, let's move on to, I believe we're on our picks of the week.
Yes, sir.
And I actually am going to skip this week only because the story I did at the very beginning of the show on our local hockey player, I'm going to use that as mine. So we will go ahead and move on to yours.
Okay. And I understand that, Wayne. That was tragic to hear. I did see that when you tweeted it. So, but I did want to my pick of the week, and I don't normally do this, but if you go on NHL.com with any regularity, you'll see that they try to at least one day during the week pick a day. This is what happened on this day in history, and I've in the past taken a look at that and said maybe I should put this one down, but I've always resisted the temptation to do that until now. I decided to finally give in to the temptation. And on this day, March the 21st, 1991, which was 2 days ago, a gentleman by the name of Ron Tugnut made 70 saves in a game with the Quebec Nordiques versus the Boston Bruins. And so I wanted to bring that up, read some of the article to you. And I know that's a game you said you watched, Wayne, and I would like to hear.
I did watch that game, and I remember that game. Yes. Yep.
Yes. Ron Tugnut had every right to be tired after the Quebec Nordiques game against the Boston Bruins at Boston Garden on March 21st, 1991. For nearly 3 hours, Tugnut put on perhaps the greatest goaltending performance in NHL history.
It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
Really?
Yeah.
I cannot wait. The Bruins, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. The Bruins kept shooting, finishing the night with 73 shots on goal. Tugnut used his stick, gloves, pad, and assorted parts of his body to keep all but 3 of them out of the net. It was just one of those nights where I was seeing the puck well, Tugnut said, after earning a 3-3 tie for the Nordiques. And when I didn't see it, I anticipated the shots well. He had to, because he certainly wasn't getting much help. Tugnut was 23 and in his 4th NHL season with the Nordiques, who were on their way to finishing last in the NHL with a 16, 50, and 14 record. Quebec's 46 points were 11 fewer than the next worst team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Nordiques were also the NHL's worst defensive team, allowing 354 goals. Toronto was next at 318. Tugnut finished the season at 12, 29, and 10 with a 4.05 goals against average and a save percentage of .885. And it's safe to say he might not even be playing in the NHL with those numbers today. But for one night, he was as good as any goaltender who ever played the game. Tugnut stopped all 17 Bruins shots in the first period, allowing the Nordiques to take a 1-0 lead into the dressing room. Tugnut made 18 saves in the second period, and the Nordiques maintained their lead 2-1. After Boston's Kevin Markwart and Quebec's Alexei Gusarov each scored in the third period, Bruins star defenseman Ray Bourque got a shot past Tugnut at 10:36 of the third period to get the Bruins even at 3-3. The Bruins kept firing away, outshooting the Nordiques 26-5 in the third period and 12-2 in the 5-minute overtime. Nothing else got past Tugnut. Bruins star Cam Neely suggested Tugnut take a bow in front of the Boston Garden fans, and Tugnut obliged. I've never been in a situation where an opposing player told me to take a bow in his own building, Tugnut said afterwards. Tugnut's 70 saves and 73 shots faced are the second most in NHL regular season history in each category, behind only Sam Lopresti of the Chicago Blackhawks, who made 80 saves on 83 shots against, and he played in that game against the Boston Bruins on March the 4th, 1941. So Boston has been in both of those games.
Yep.
I just think that's amazing. And I could not resist this week. I did not know that you had watched that game, but I would like to hear what your thoughts on it were.
Yeah, it seems like every year this story comes up where they or at least on NESN, the local channel that broadcasts the Bruins games, they'll bring that story up. And yeah, I remember watching that game. I mean, I remember being as mad as hell that they kept shooting and shooting. I think Ray Bourque had, 19 shots on goal that night.
Yeah.
Bourque alone. And, they just couldn't beat the guy. I couldn't believe. I mean, Quebec, that was when Quebec they were bad. They were a bad team. And if I remember right, the details are kind of vague on the standings around that time, but I think Boston really needed a win there, and that was one of those games where you just can't leave points on the table because Quebec was a really bad team. And, Boston obviously was headed to the playoffs, for the umpteenth time in a row. And it was just a mismatch going into the game. And I remember watching thinking, okay, we're going to have a win here, and I just couldn't believe it, how this guy was making these saves out of nowhere. And I'm like, it was amazing. Yeah, I definitely vividly remember watching that game and just shaking my head at the end, and it felt like a loss. It really did. It was a 3-3 tie at the end, but it felt like a loss because they so badly outplayed Quebec and so badly outshot them and came away with nothing more than a tie. So yeah,
absolutely amazing. In regulation, there was 61 saves. I mean, that is, I can't think of a game where I've heard a goalie doing that. It would happen,
50 saves or 50 shots was quite common back in those days when scoring was much higher. But, it was incredible. He put on an incredible performance, for sure.
Thank you, Wayne.
Cool.
That was a good one.
All right, so as we wrap things up, I'd like to remind everybody how to get in touch with us. You can reach me on my Twitter handle. I'm at WayneHalley9. Steve is at SBall504man. Our email is at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. We have a voicemail box if you want to leave us a voicemail at 919-960-1718. And our Facebook page where we stream the recording of our show live is at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. And we also put our recordings up on YouTube as well. And that can be reached at www.thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. And, of course, you can find us at all the big podcast places where you can find podcasts. You can get us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Player.fm, Google Play Music, Spreaker, and on the any Android, Apple app that you use to get podcasts. You can also catch our show on a couple of different websites. Of course, our own website at thehockeynuts.com. You can also get us at thehockeywriters.com, and you can get us there at their podcast channel. So that's a good place to go to not only get hockey-related podcasts, but listen to or read hockey-related articles. So it's another great site for that. Other than that, I mean, I don't have a whole lot else to talk about.
Yeah, we got through it pretty good tonight, Wayne. So we were able to touch on things.
Coming up on next week, we're going to have obviously more updates on the NCAA tournament. We might even talk about the CHL tournament a little bit if we can find that information easily online. Of course, we got to update everybody on the KHL tournament. NHL playoffs will be getting closer. Hopefully, we'll have better news for Bruins fans and Rangers fans on that front. And who knows? Maybe Carolina might squeak in this year if they keep winning the way they have. I mean, the players are still believing that they can do it, but they're going to need some help. But who knows? They might be able to make it too. But I got a bad feeling though. If Carolina makes it in, it's going to cost the Boston Bruins. So.
I think they're going to run out of games, Wayne, but then again, I don't.
Yeah, I do too. Ultimately, I think they're going to run out of games. So, all right. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming up, and And once again, if you are local to the Carolina area and are going to be attending the NHL Fan Centennial, I can't remember what they call it, the Centennial Celebration in Raleigh, we will be there on Sunday. Of course, we're going to be in line to get our picture taken with the Stanley Cup, and then we're also going to go visit the little traveling museum that they've got as well. So, and I'll probably play some of the games that they have there too.
Yeah.
See if I can hit any targets or whatever they have, the shooting targets. So I'm really looking forward to it. So
yes, sir.
All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and end the show. And until next week, we will catch you later.